What do you make of what we know so far about this bomber? We're waiting to get confirmation on an official photo. I don't know if one has been released yet, but we did hear from multiple sources now about potential anarchist writings that were associated with the individual who would have been about 25 or 26 around the time of this bombing.
Yeah, so they haven't released a huge amount of information about this suspect yet, but the information that has been released shouldn't really surprise us. You know, people are already talking on Twitter about the family business, which appears to be related to bail bonds for immigrants. And, you know, then there's also this material, potentially these anarchist writings. So it looks like actually maybe what we're dealing with is something akin to a false flag, and you know that was suggested from the very beginning. Actually, you know that there were leftist agitators involved in the events of January the 6th, and you know, really what I think it tells us is that we need to go back and we need to look at January 6th again. We still don't know the full story. We still don't know exactly what was going on. You know, we still don't know who the FBI's confidential informants were who were on the ground, and I think it was, you know, there were dozens on the ground that day. But we also don't know actually whether, you know, there really were elements of a leftist false flag taking place.
Well, and look, you know, there's all of that needs to be discussed, because now when we see these reports about anarchist writings, we see these reports, and remember, this was someone who we knew had attacked not just the RNC, but also the DNC. So someone who clearly perhaps had an axe to grind with both parties, isn't necessarily a member of a mainstream political movement. And that does actually fit the profile of someone who we would see on the as an anti-government or an anarchist, anti-fascist extremist, where that is exactly how they look. Now, you know, we're going through, I'm trying to pull up on CNN or FBI, whether any more information is coming out on this. He's been charged at this point of using an explosive device. We only have that grainy surveillance footage. And again, what we do see, though, is that it seems that the home that he was living in, and I believe we have a shot of the home where he was living, that this seems to be an affluent individual. Those home prices in that area, Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., are very, very high. And so, Dr. Cornish-Dale, what do you make of the idea that this could have been the son of a fairly wealthy upper middle class family? Is that a profile that we've seen before anywhere?
Yeah, no, it's a profile we all should be familiar with. I mean, I think that what we're seeing is, I mean, we're seeing a familiar pattern from history. I mean, it's these leftist agitators, these anarchist agitators, you know, a lot of them aren't from the lumpen proletariat, as it were. You know, they're not the lowest of the low. They're actually potentially educated people. They're people from wealthy backgrounds, and yet they share in, you know, the sort of the leftist goal, the leftist dream of leveling society. So no, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise at all to us if it does turn out that actually this is somebody who is from an affluent background. You know, I mean, Luigi Mangione, he wasn't from a poor background.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, we're seeing a pattern emerge, and not just a kind of longer term pattern, but even just a pattern within the last year or so from Luigi Mangione. It's the same kinds of people carrying out these crimes, you know, and more attention needs to be paid to them by law enforcement, I think. I mean, it's, you know, these are preventable, a lot of these are preventable crimes. I think law enforcement needs to get ahead of them. Because there are going to be more. I mean, that's one thing we can say. You know, there are going to be more attacks like this, more attempts to assassinate political figures, more attempts to plant pipe bombs, more attempts to spread terror and confusion, and also perhaps, as with this pipe bombing attack, you know, maybe to sow dissension, maybe to kind of try to implicate the right actually in the left's scheme to overturn society.
Yeah, possibly, or even just saw it as a target of opportunity, knew that there would be, what did we know, right? What do we know We knew that on January 6th, prior to that, that there would be a large gathering of Trump supporters in Washington, D.C. on that day. And so it certainly could have been just from the basics of it, certainly could have been an attempt to target those individuals who were, who were marching around. I was personally there that day. I was in and around the Capitol. I was down at the Ellipse. I walked up to the War Room with Steve Bannon and sat down at the table, and then went back, was walking down Capitol Hill right as the now, of course, the pipe bombs didn't go off, but I did see the stun grenades and the flashbangs thrown by the Capitol Police on January 6th as the crowd was peaceful, which led to much confusion and all of the pushing and shoving, and we saw how that spiraled out of control. And so, we certainly knew that it was going to be a rough situation, a target of opportunity potentially for someone. That's why a lot of people had speculated just going into it that there could be some agitators, some Antifa. Typically when, as a guy who's held his fair share of Trump rallies and Trump events in Washington, D.C., typically we do almost always get some kind of Antifa counter-protest, counter-response. But it was always very interesting to me that there weren't any public or outward signs of Antifa anywhere at January 6th.
No, well, I mean, look, it's not actually that difficult to dress up as a Trump supporter, is it? You don the MAGA hat. You put a MAGA hat on, you're a Trump supporter. And so it's not like it's an elaborate disguise isn't required actually to blend in. And I do seem to remember that there were people talking on Reddit about, going to the Capitol and causing trouble. And
that's right. Wasn't there a bit? It was like wear your hat backwards or wear it upside down or something like that. That was going to be a thing.
Yes, there was. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it stands to reason that there probably were leftist agitators there. It's a great way to to generate negative publicity. It's a great way to discredit people, is to associate them with political violence. And it doesn't take much to infiltrate a MAGA rally just by wearing a MAGA hat. And this is what leftists do.